Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the keynote session on the second day of FINSEC Conclave 2021. Our first keynote of the day is from our gold partner, Microsoft. And representing Microsoft, we have with us Mr. Aneesh Dhawan, Director of Security Solutions. Mr. Dhawan, you're welcome to the stage.
Thank you so much. Vikas, can you hear me well?
I can hear you, sir.
I'm just presenting my screen. Just let me know once you see that as well.
Sure.
Looks okay?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You can maybe put it in the presenter's mode now.
I'll do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me today. First, let me begin by saying that I hope you and your families are safe and healthy. My role at Microsoft is to represent you all within my organization. Take your challenges, bring in the richness of solutions from Microsoft and its partner ecosystem to solve those. And for the new ones, engage folks from engineering who constantly gather similar insights across the world to formalize their roadmaps and future priorities. What you see in front of you is a typical 2.5 year plan to enable work from anywhere scenario for an enterprise. That just got crunched to 2 months, something most of you would have witnessed in your respective organizations during the early stages of pandemic, provided your organization had that operational resilience. 54% of CISOs when surveyed said that their operational resilience plans prepared them adequately for the pandemic. This also means almost half weren't prepared for any kind of disruption. When billions of people formed the largest remote workforce pretty much overnight, we knew security and compliance challenges would not be small. If anything, this pandemic is helping us with, it is pushing our tech industry to forge ahead, and alongside accessing data securely and digitally is becoming more and more crucial. What we also witnessed, and you would have heard that yesterday, we heard that today, are the ever growing cyber attacks in volume, frequency, and techniques causing significant business impact. This will grow unabated until some significant changes are adopted within the industry. Attacks on network, identity, or operational technologies such as IoT are becoming more and more common. But what is striking is the growth of the new generation of human operated ransomware, also popularly called HUMA, that started popping up around June 2019 and has come a long way since the CryptoLocker days of 2013. It has grown into a deadly business model, blending targeted attacks that we've seen in isolation with an extortion business model. And we need to watch out for this because of its high business impact. Previous attacker models could be managed with limited security improvements compared to now the entire organization getting targeted with customized attacks driven by determined human intelligence. So they can navigate now, right? And that intelligence is there. This is highly profitable for attackers as it gives the best ROI, and which better vertical than financial services to look at. And even after you settle this, there is no guarantee that the payment will result in decryption key or that the data won't be sold on the dark web. Additionally, there's a lot of room for these attacks to grow as there is always a massive backlog in security hygiene issues that they could potentially exploit. Much like COVID-19 shifted the long-standing industry perceptions on BYOD and remote work, human-operated ransomware will likely trigger fundamental shifts in the cybersecurity industry. Remember what I said earlier. Not everybody was ready for financially or organizationally for the pandemic. This means that the organizations are still trying to catch up. With 42% of organizations saying their workforce will continue to be remote even a year from now, future-proofing data risk will mean the difference between success and struggle. Today, we serve billions of customers globally, and aggregation of their security signals from diverse spectrum of companies, organizations, consumers gives us a unique vantage point. We ingest over 8 trillion of security signals, some of them you're seeing on the screen right now per day, for potential malicious activities in emails, on devices, in authentications, and in cloud applications that people log in for work and for personal life. The insights and trends from these are then brought to life in our AI ML powered intelligence security graph, which is the soul of our security services that help proactively protect your digital estate against latest threats. In addition to these, we have thousands of security experts working round the clock across 77 industries. Our hope is that by continually sharing insights that we and other industry derive from the work we do, we will empower everyone to defend the online ecosystem more effectively. With COVID-19 pandemic, we saw an acceleration of two major shifts. We saw acceleration of two major shifts that meant difference between the success and struggle. We saw zero trust shift from a business option to a business imperative in the first 2 weeks of the pandemic. Companies who were relying on traditional security methods, and like few gentlemen on the panel also talked about, like antiviruses, firewalls, etc., the traditional methods, right, were more susceptible to COVID-19 themed attacks and were less able to meet the demands of newly formed remote workforce. Strengthening a security posture begins by adopting a zero trust philosophy. Zero trust provides modern security framework to manage complexity of today's organization. A holistic approach to zero trust should extend throughout the digital state. It serves as an integrated security philosophy as well as an end-to-end strategy. And it is based on three principles. The first being verify explicitly. Rather than trust users or devices implicitly because they are on the corporate network, it is critical to assume zero trust and verify each transaction explicitly. This means enabling strong authentication and authorization based on all available data points, including user identity, location, device health, services, and other anomalies that you may be able to figure out. The second one is use least privileged access principles to grant access to people only when they need it, for as long as they need it, and for the specific task at hand only, and nothing beyond that. The third one is assume breach. Finally, operate with the assumption that you have been breached, and then apply techniques such as micro-segmentation and real-time behavioral analytics to detect attacks more quickly. The idea is to reduce the detection time to as low as possible. With identity being the new perimeter to your digital estate and your most prized asset that criminals are after, in a zero trust model, you will need to define identities for everyone and everything, whether they represent people, services, or devices, or IoT devices, the latest being there. This defines the control plane in which all the access decisions are made and will rely on pervasive threat signals and insights. Connecting the dots provides greater visibility to prevent, detect, and respond to distributed and sophisticated attack and campaigns. That's why having a strong identity solution is the critical first step of any zero trust security approach. Broadly, zero trust controls should be implemented across six foundational elements. When an identity attempts to access a resource, we need to verify that the identity with strong authentication and ensure access is compliant, keeping in mind the least privilege access principles that we've created for ourselves. Once access has been granted, data can flow in a variety of directions across personal, partner, corporate devices, across on-prem and cloud workloads, creating a massive attack surface area, which requires constant device health monitoring and compliance enforcement. Wherever possible, data should be classified, labeled, encrypted, and access restricted so that it remains safe and at rest as well as in transit. Applications and APIs provide the interface by which data is consumed, therefore, shadow IT must be discovered. And appropriate in app permissions, monitoring of any kind of abnormal behavior, and validation of secure configurations is very important. Infrastructure, whether on premise, cloud based, or microservices, represent another critical threat vector. So, version assessment, uh, configuration assessment, just in time access are necessary to harden the defense. Active telemetry is required to detect attacks, anomalies, automatic flagging of risky behaviors, and consequent protective actions. All data is ultimately accessed over networks, and networking controls can help prevent attackers from moving laterally over the network. Therefore, the networks also should be micro-segmented, and real-time threat protection, end-to-end encryption, and analytics should be employed to catch them early. All policies should get automatically enforced at the time of access and continue throughout the session based on the role, location, behavior patterns, data sensitivity, applications, and device security. Humans obviously can't react fast enough to attacks happening today. Therefore, integrating intelligence from telemetry with policy based response for real time automated threat protection is very important. It's in fact crucial. Because we believe organizations need to embrace zero trust, we've built that into heart of our products and services. Our integrated solutions offer built-in zero trust controls so that you can implement your security model, the zero trust security model, at scale across your digital estate. To make zero trust a reality, in case you're already on that journey, all of you as security leaders who will have to check the following. Does zero trust come to you intuitively? And if it does it to every citizen of your organization? Have you established a V team with your stakeholders on zero trust? Do you know where you stand today? Do you know where you want to arrive? And do you have a buy in from all members of C level community in your organization to bridge the gap? If not, there's still work to do. We discussed trust. Let's move on to compliance. In my conversation with some of you and general industry conversations, these happen to be the three most popular misconceptions amongst many others. With multiple regulations already in place and the new ones like PDP and the few that got discussed in the panel earlier round the corner, it's pertinent that we clear these. So I'll cover them at a very broad level as my colleague Ashish has already tackled them in depth in today's workshop in the morning. First one being regulations prevent cloud adoption. When the correct compliance capabilities are present, regulations don't prevent cloud adoption, and most regulators do not prohibit cloud adoptions. Rather, regulators across the board seem to focus on just one thing, and that's risk. Relook at IDRBT cloud security framework with the same lens, and you will agree with me. The second one being cloud increases compliance risk. Depending on where an organization is in their cloud journey, there is a perception of increased risk when using cloud and an assumption that on premise data center is safer. With capabilities built at least within the Microsoft services and Microsoft tools like Advanced e-discovery or Compliance Manager, the risk of non-compliance is reduced drastically and achieving compliance is greatly simplified. Thirdly, control over enterprise data is lost. The control over enterprise data conversation starts at the foundation of who we are as a company. Microsoft has undergone the transformation to become the cloud first, mobile first organization whose core business is empowering our customers, and that's quite obvious in our vision as well. The cornerstones of that empowerment are trust and transparency. And by being transparent, we are confident in our ability to earn the trust of our customers and our partners. Operational resilience is an ability to sustain your business operations even in the face of a major event like a cyber attack. And talking to customers globally, we know most of them are not fully prepared to withstand any major cyber event. Operational resilience cannot be achieved without a true commitment to an investment in cyber resilience. It's about people, process, and technology. While majority of firms have a disaster recovery plan on paper, nearly a quarter of them have really not tested that on a very regular basis. Only 42% of the global executives are confident their organizations could recover from major cyber event without impacting their business. Every organization must have a cyber recovery plan. Imagine, if you will, the impact on your organization if you never planned and prepared for a natural disaster. A cyber event is pretty much the same. Same rules should apply for preparation, response, and recovery. As I mentioned, as I mentioned earlier, combination of people, process, and technology is required to achieve cyber resilience and ultimately the operational resilience that I referred to earlier. For example, multi-factor authentication should be turned on for 100% of your employees, 100% of time, no exceptions, period. Every person with corporate network access, including full-time employees, consultants, and contractors, should be regularly trained to develop a cyber resilient mindset. Not only should they adhere to the security policies and the recently talked about identity based access control, but they should also be alerting IT officials on all suspicious events and infections as soon as possible to help minimize the time to remediation. In fact, even time to the detection. This requires a lot of investment in educating teams. For example, every employee should understand the importance of a multi-factor authentication and how to recognize a phishing attempt. To maintain cyber resilience, you should have an ability to regulate, evaluate your risk threshold, and operationally execute the process through a combination of human efforts and AI-based technology products and services, which is where Microsoft can closely partner with you. And yes, the last point. As new threats surface, the industry introduced a security solution to address it. Our data centers are now fully loaded with multiple security solutions purpose built to address a specific problem discovered over time. And every solution has a long tail. From solution, its management, its alert volume, operational skill set, the infrastructure needed to support them. These are just few that a customer shared with us. However, there are many more that we haven't discussed or don't get to discuss as much. Cross integration, vendor support, process overloads, vendor management, legal contracts, payments, I could go on and on. Additionally, in such loosely integrated solutions, it's a challenge to improve your security posture by swiftly gaining insight and acting on it. The second challenge is that supporting all those solutions, as you will need skill sets, resources, training for every product that is there in your data center, as it's a critical part of that integration. Thirdly, the issue resolution or investigation is a nightmare in many cases with all different vendors and lot of finger pointing. Finally, the cost comes from all those complexities that we've not really talked about. A realization in most cases is that, if not all, is that you never get to use the product to their full capabilities, maybe just 50% at best. And that means paying 100% for a 30 to 50% of the features at best. So the recommendation that we would have is to consolidate as much as possible by looking at integrated security platform providers like Microsoft and there are many others as your partners in your cybersecurity journey. Let me summarize by saying that the rapid adoption of new data technologies, including AI, cloud-based storage, has made data risk a pervasive concern. Strong data management and a thorough understanding of related risks are critical to managing trust with data, both from within the organization and externally. By strengthening your security posture with zero trust, understanding that cyber resilience best practices actually help enhance business continuity, and examining business priorities and trends as we look past pandemic, you will help future proof your data risk past the pandemic in this time of unprecedented change and unprecedented opportunity. With that, I would just like to thank you for being a patient audience and sincerely hope you found the session useful. Take good care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dhawan, for sharing this really insightful talk with us about zero trust and added attributes. And we would now like to move on to our second keynote of the day,